Reports from the southwest region of the country confirms notorious separatist fighter General Ayeke of Libialem has been neutralized by forces of law and order today during an operation carried out by the 6th B sector. He was killed this morning at 6 a.m. according to reports, and 10 people rescued from his camp. According to the military, he was killed during a confrontation that started on Sunday night. His corpse was brought to Kumba via military helicopter, which landed at the headquarters of the 6th B sector at Mabanda, Kumba 3 subdivision. His remains was later taken for public viewing. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. This is Prime News on My Media Prime live from Douala, the country's economic capital. My name is Gienda Peldrin Blanche King, and now we begin the news this evening from the littoral region, precisely or exactly in Douala, where at least over 30 persons suspected to have a link with a group of armed bandits called or locally known as Le Microbe in Douala have been arrested. This comes after a series of robbery attacks carried out in most parts of the city. Fifth Tata completes the story in the following report.
Littoral Governor Samuel Dieudonné Ivaha has urged traditional chiefs, quarterheads and Douala denizens to be on the lookout for a group of delinquents who go by the name Le Microbe, as they have been terrorizing the peace and quiet of the region. Speaking at a press briefing recently, after the arrest of over 30 persons in link with these crimes, he further urged the population to immediately report any attacks from these juvenile delinquents. These arrests comes as a result of recent attacks in various neighborhoods across Douala, with the most recent in the Deido neighborhood that, however, met with stiff resistance from inhabitants who chased the group of thieves away. Further reports reveal that this gang constitutes a set of young idle individuals who have been in the past identified with theft in various parts of Douala. The population is therefore called upon not to withhold any information beneficial in tracking down these armed bandits.
Following recent updates of insecurity and violent acts in the North region and in Gaunderi, the Brigadier General Anga Robertson, commander of the 3rd Combined Military Region, is on a mission to ensure the safety of the locals and their livestock. The brigadier commander has confirmed the armed men have been neutralized, or some armed men have been neutralized, and the forces of law and order will stop at nothing to ensure that the locals are safe, and so are their livestock. Details with Nora Kakebi in the following reports.
Parts of Gaunderi and the North regions have been constantly under attack by armed bandits, thereby leaving the local population frightened and insecure. The continuous attacks on these areas have been characterized by hostage-taking and ransom payments. To this effect, therefore, Brigadier General Aga Robinson, commander of the 3rd Combined Military Region, is sparing no efforts to counter all forms of banditry in these areas and evaluate security measures in order to reassure the disturbed population of their safety and security. While visiting some of the areas, the brigadier has this to say.
The measures we took are yielding their fruits. The situation is under control and it's calm.
According to him, a good number of these men of the underworld who have been disturbing the peace and tranquility in these localities have been neutralized. This therefore implies to some extent that life has been restored to normalcy, with the local population going about their activities without fear while they remain alert.
Just prescribed, I told them to be vigilant because the enemy doesn't sleep.
After having visited most of the areas which have been attacked, Brigadier General Aga Robinson has instructed the military firmly to continue working in close collaboration with the local population, whose main preoccupation is livestock and agro-pastoral farming.
Users of the Bamenda Babaju stretch of road have once again cried foul given the poor state of roads around that area. In the following report, Fabrice Keninga says traveling around that area is a daunting task as passengers spend several hours on the road due to the poor conditions or the poor states of roads. His report.
Traveling to and from Bamenda, chief town of the northwest region of Cameroon these days, can be likened to putting together Mount Cameroon, Mount Kilimanjaro and Mount Everest for an athlete to climb. Simply put, it is a nightmare. This is my 6th Akum in Santa Subdivision along the Bamenda Babaju Road about 6 kilometers from the northwest chief town. Here, travelers spend 6 to 7 hours daily in waiting due to the poor state of the road. This is a project which normally should have been completed, but here it is at a sorrowful and regrettable state. The big question remains, for how long? For how long will the Bamenda man wait to travel on a good road? The answer is blown in the wind. This is just one out of numerous examples. It should be noted that most divisional headquarters of the two Anglophone regions cannot boast of 2 kilometers of tarred road, and observers argue that these are some of the things that give separatists an urge for independence. The Anglophone regions, for 60 years since independence, are still looking with nostalgia at archaic colonial endeavors instead of counting the tappings of being part of a one and indivisible Cameroon. To borrow from late iconic Cameroonian journalist Zakariko, let's keep hoping, but not hoping against hope.
Members of the Southwest-based Musician Association have pledged their unflinching support to Jojo Musinja, Limba-based musician, for his candidacy to stand as board chair of Sonaka Music Corporation. This was over the weekend at his Molindo residence. Details with Kumar Norembo.
The candidacy of Mr. Jojo Musinja has been endorsed by members of the Southwest-based Musician Association as board chair of Sonakam in an extraordinary executive meeting which took place in Limbe over the weekend. During the meeting, it was unanimously agreed that Mr. Jojo Musinja will represent the Anglophone musicians and the Southwest-based musicians in particular for the position of board chair of Sonakam in the forthcoming elections scheduled to take place on the 24th of October. In a communique which was made public at his Mokindi residence, Swepma further reminds the Minister of Arts and Culture of the necessity for them to elect all those who are vying for the positions of board members from the Southwest region to avoid the appointment syndrome as it occurred in the past. The communique further reminds the Cameroon music industry of the fact that Anglophones have always accepted the position of vice chair in all music corporations that have existed. However, this time around, they are soliciting the support of their Francophone brethren to vote for their candidates so that an Anglophone will at least manage the affairs of the music corporation for the very first time. Former board member of Sonakam, Eta Unique, says his candidate is a square peg in a square hole.
I'm appealing for all the artists to support him. My brothers Anglophones from the Northwest, my brother Francophones from the Littoral region, West, everywhere, Global, Southeast, to come. And this is the first time we're having a board chair and as an Anglophone. I think we can emerge to see him walk ahead.
On behalf of the female artists, Lady Kate is calling on her peers to rally forces behind Jojo Musinja as defining him rare qualities of a leader who will cater for their plights.
I am standing here on behalf of the women artists in Cameroon, and I'm pleading that we should stand as women behind Mr. Jojo Musinja to give him our own support as a board chair in Sonakam.
According to Jojo Musinja, his immediate plan of action will be to improve on the livelihood of artists and to make sure that they have health insurance cover. He also promised to be transparent in the management of artists' finances and make sure artists get their authors' right paid in due time.
And make sure wherever artist money is, I hunt it and bring it to the house so that artists should enjoy, first of all, their author's rights. Number two, I make sure we engage artists in daily activities. Thirdly, I make sure I fight corruption in the system.
Jojo Musinja is an architect and a musician by profession. He is also a maritime business operator and proprietor of Big J Marine. He is the outgoing president of the Ethics and Discipline Committee of Sonakam. He has several albums in the market, with one of his popular tracks, Sango Pastor, savored and enjoyed by many.
The second edition of the Zakariko Scholarship offered to meritorious student John Lees has been launched for the 2020 2021 academic year. A total of 8 successful student journalists are expected to benefit from the scholarship scheme this year, which is aimed at empowering students with the intellectual characteristics of late Zakariko, who was one time best sports reporter in Cameroon. Details with Crise.
Late Zakariko was no doubt one-time best sport reporter in Cameroon. Although gone from the surface of this earth, honoring his outstanding performance and passion for the journalism profession is what has prompted this gathering by members of the Zakariko's Foundation to announce the launching of the second edition of the Zakariko Scholarship Scheme. This second edition of the Zakariko Scholarship Scheme comes after the successful training of 3 fully funded students who are expected to graduate come December, as Mrs. Mabel Yufianyi, Secretary General of SUS de Pays, unveils.
In 2017, just the way we fulfilled the eligibility criteria. We had one who was a visually impaired student, Anglophone, in Mass Yaoundé, and we had 2 in the University of Buea, JMC. But along the line, one of them was not living up to standards, and so we had to drop him. So hopefully, come December 2020, we're going to have 2 students who are going to be graduating as the first batch of students trained under the banner of the Zakariko Scholarship scheme.
During this press conference that held in Buea, it was also disclosed that the scholarship scheme is meant for underprivileged freshmen and women of Cameroonian nationality who have successfully been admitted to either the journalism department of the University of Buea or the Asmak School of Journalism in Yaoundé. They must also show a letter of recommendation by an authority in order to be eligible for the application, whose deadline is slated for October 25. The SG adds.
And like you all heard, we're moving from 4 to 8. So we're going to have 4 students at JMC in the University of Buea, and we're going to have 4 students in the Advanced School of Mass Communication. So once we've launched the applications for now, students have up to the 25th of October to send in their files. They can do that by mail, or they'll do it by dropping a hard copy with the public relations officer. We want them to excel. We want them to incarnate the spirit of the late Zakariko, who was very brilliant and who excelled in everything he did.
This year, the beneficiary of the Zakariko Scholarship will have their tuition fee paid to the tune of 50,000 francs CFA, with a partial accommodation to the tune of 100,000 francs CFA, transport and purchase of books to the tune of 50,000 francs CFA each for the next 3 years of their study. In addition, journalism working gadgets will be given to students upon their graduation to ensure they are self-employed rather than being job seekers.
You're watching the 6:30 Prime News on My Major Prime. Let's now take you to the East region, where our reporter says some youths have resorted to local production to fight against or combat the rising rate of youth unemployment in the country. Most of them have started or are into local handwork. Jean Didier in the French language.
Il n'y a pas de sous-métier, mais de sautes gens. Cette maxime de l'écrivain est de plus en plus visible ici, dans l'arrondissement de Beltois Premier, où une vingtaine de jeunes luttent au quotidien pour joindre les 2 bouts. Réveillés très tôt le matin, ils arpentent les ruelles de la ville pour l'achat de l'aluminium, ici à quelques encablures de leur usine de fortune. Des amas de fer entassés dans des sacs et prêts à être pesés afin de servir de matières premières. Le kilogramme de ferraille varie ici entre 325 à 350 francs CFA. La marchandise ainsi achetée, nos valeureux combattants de la vie prendront le chemin de la fabrique. Ici, l'aluminium est fondu dans un tonneau dépassant les 200 degrés Celsius. Puis, à l'aide d'une louche de circonstance, déposée dans des trous en forme de marmite et recouvert par la terre. Tout ceci n'est pas sans difficulté.
On part acheter les aluminiums, on vient, on achète le bois, on commence à fabriquer, on vous est parti tout à l'heure là, on fabrique comme ça, on pond l'aluminium, on coule les marmites tout à fait, on prend, on vient limer, on échelle des aluminiums au marché pour vendre.
La clientèle est nombreuse, mais nous moyens sont limités, n'est-ce pas, pour fabriquer. Nous, les amis sont les meilleurs, mais finalement, on n'a pas un soutien fixé pour nous aider à travailler.
L'État, à travers ses démembrements en charge du financement des projets jeunes, devrait se pencher sur ce secteur qui emploie des dizaines de Camerounais et qui exerce encore d'une manière archaïque. Un financement des pouvoirs publics serait donc la bienvenue afin de multiplier la fabrication de 40 à 50 marmites journaliers. Si vous êtes de passage dans les marchés de Yaoundé, Douala ou N'Djamena et que vous achetez des ustensiles de cuisine, pensez-y, ils ont peut-être été fabriqués dans l'usine de Bertois.
Gladys Bomotongina compiled the following news-making events around the African continent. Her report in the French language.
The disbanding of SARS is only the first step in our commitment to extensive police reform in order to ensure that the primary duty of the police and other law enforcement agencies remains the protection of lives.
Malgré l'annonce dimanche dernier de la dissolution avec effet immédiat de la SAR, qui est une brigade anticriminelle de la police par le président nigérien Muhammadu Buhari, les manifestations se poursuivent par les populations qui semblent ne plus faire confiance en leurs dirigeants face à ce problème. En effet, depuis hier, les civils ont envahi les rues du pays, dénonçant avec hargne les violences policières et leur besoin de voir ce corps de police disparaître. Un bilan de 4 morts est enregistré. À quelques jours des élections en Tanzanie, soit le 28 octobre 2020, l'organisation non gouvernementale œuvrant à promouvoir les droits de l'homme, à savoir Amnesty International, au travers de la voix de son directeur pour l'Afrique de l'Est et australe, Deprose Mouchena, accuse le président John Magufuli d'utiliser des voies répressives contre les opposants. Ils mettent en avant la suspension de 7 jours imposée en début d'octobre au principal opposant Tundu Lissu. L'organisation parle également d'agression physique des opposants, dont enlèvement et passage à tabac. En Angola, les poursuites judiciaires à l'endroit de l'ancien président Dos Santos se poursuivent. Ce dernier accusé de corruption, l'actuel président João Lourenço, dans une interview accordée au quotidien américain Wall Street Journal, estimait les pertes à 24 milliards de dollars enregistrées sous son administration. Il affirme également que 13 milliards de ces pertes ont été également détournées par des contrats frauduleux.
In sports, the new football season in Cameroon will begin on October 31, 2020, while an extraordinary General Assembly of the Cameroon Professional League will take place on September 19 in Yaoundé. Sportsman Fabrice Kendinga completes the sports report.
In spite the imbroglio surrounding football in Cameroon, the start of the new football season in the country has been announced for Saturday, the 31st of October 2020. This information is contained in a communique signed by the president of the Cameroon Professional League, General Pierre Semenge, on October 12. The same communique indicates that an extraordinary session of the Cameroon Professional League will take place on Saturday, the 19th of December 2020 in Yaoundé, with the aim of electing new members into the Administrative Council of the league following the recent resignation of some members. The announcement of the date of the new season has ignited hopes in the key stakeholders of the beautiful game, the players who have been out of action for close to 7 months following the outbreak of the coronavirus that forced government to shut down all sporting activities, and also coupled with the recent crisis rocking the Cameroon Football Federation and the Cameroon Professional League. Other stakeholders are still skeptical whether or not the league will actually begin, because postponements have been the new normal for Cameroon's football, which operates with no calendar. It should be noted that the president's release failed to indicate which team and where the opening match of the long-awaited 2020-2021 Football Championship will take place, with less than 4 months to the African Nations Championship bid for Cameroon. The commencement of the league is of utmost importance so as to give players who shall be representing the country in January 2021 enough game time.
And that's it for today's edition of Prime News on My Media Prime. Join us tomorrow at 6:30 for another edition. The news was produced by Ewane Eli Nolinga, coordinated by Lasha Kingsley. My name is Genda Pelgin Blanche King. Stay tuned to My Media Prime at 7 p.m. Prime Hour will be live. Enjoy today's edition of Prime Hour. Good night.